So we've been doing this series, Mirror, Mirror, and we've been talking about discovering the real you. We have been encouraging you for the past month to go to a website that's yourenneagramcoach.com. If you have not yet gone to that website and taken that personality test, do it just for fun. I mean, have a blast with it. How many of you have taken the personality test, by the way? All right, cool, awesome. We've been talking about personality, and it's really important for you to kind of get a sense of who you are, to be able to appreciate who you are, and to be able to understand how people experience you, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. But one of the things I've really been looking forward to is to have an Enneagram coach come up and to be able to talk about the whole Enneagram personality issues and discover how those can help you in relationships. And so Christy Rolls is with us today. Let me give you a little background on Christy. So Christy helps people discover, understand, and transform who they are so they can live the most free and fulfilling lives possible. She helps clients break patterns that aren't working and build ones that do. How many of you have had patterns in your life that weren't working for you? All right, come on, this is just be honest, right? She has a master's degree in mental health therapy, is a certified family life educator, and a certified Enneagram coach. Most recently, she ran the admissions office and was a parent coach at a residential treatment center for teen girls, as well as seeing clients as a therapist at Indiana Wesleyan University. Any of you from Indiana? Okay, all right, cool. And she and her husband, Nick, moved back to Florida in June 2018, where she has been coaching with the Enneagram since, and she is so happy to be home in the warmth and sunshine, and she could thaw out from living in the Midwest. So, guys, I want you to give a great big bridge welcome to Christy Rolls. Come on up, Christy. Yay! Good to have you. And man, you guys sent in some good questions, and we're going to cover some of those. But I kind of wanted to open up and talk about personality in general, because we simplified it. We talked about how, personality, part of that is what you got from your parents. That's the nature part. We also talked about how we learned different strategies growing up to make up for what was missing in our lives. So whether it was a sense of being loved that was missing, whether it was a sense of control that was not in our lives, or whether it was a sense that we weren't safe. We learned strategies growing up to be able to compensate for that. We try to fill the holes in our soul with different ways of behaving and thinking. And we've been talking about how really it's God who helps to heal those places, and it's through a relationship with Him where we can become the best expression of ourselves. One of the foundational teachings of Scripture is that you're a masterpiece. You are a masterpiece. God sees you through that lens. And you may go, well, I don't feel like a masterpiece. When I look at what I've done, I don't feel like a masterpiece. But yet it's God's plan for you to become the masterpiece that you were created to be. And that comes through His love and a personal relationship with Him. So personality, though, is more than just formed by those strategies that we learn, right? What are some other aspects that factor into personality?
Yeah, so we generally say in psychology, when we look at the structure of personality, that it's pretty well set within us by the age of 4 or 5. And so sometimes it is, that argument of nature, nurture. Have you guys heard of that? Okay, cool. So I just want to make sure you're alive out there. So I like your energy. So nature and nurture, I don't know that there's a way to say for sure whether it's all nature or all nurture. There's theories on both sides. I like to kind of take the approach of both and, so that maybe there's a part of us that, from the time we were created in our mama's wombs, like we have a sort of energy or certain characteristics about ourselves. But early on in life, there are different traumas that happen, or your early childhood experiences, or when you first go to elementary school and kids treat you a certain way, or whatever it is, birth order order, growing up with older siblings or younger siblings, the roles you played at that time. There's a lot of things that go into creating our personality structure, but the Enneagram does a great job of helping us understand that in more full clarity.
So the Enneagram, we've got a diagram up there. For those of you that did not get a chance to do the personality test yet, there's 9 different personality types that the Enneagram kind of identifies. And so when you go online and you take that test, it's real easy, it's free, and you can kind of get a sense of who you are, and it's a really helpful tool. Obviously, your personality is also shaped by your character, by choices that you make. Those are all a reflection of your personality as well. So we've kind of simplified it, but there are other aspects that factor into personality.
Yeah.
And so for some of you, let me ask you a question. How many of you, when you raised kids, you got a sense of what your child was going to be like really early on? You could kind of see, okay, you good. So, and sometimes that happens. So that, in your case, that happened as well. And
my mom was in the last service, and I said when I was in her belly, she would say, "You would kick me all the time, so I knew you were going to be feisty," and she's right.
Yeah. So different aspects can come out. Now, for some of you that took that, here's one of the questions. I did not score particularly high in any category. So some people felt like they kind of had a piece in all of them. Some of them didn't feel like it was as well defined for them. What does that say? How do you speak to that?
So Beth McCord, who is the Your Enneagram Coach lady, she is the one who trained me. And so when she released this new assessment, most assessments we say this about, but she says it about her own too, they can only be about 70% accurate. So tests are a starting point. They're a tool to help you find your type, but there are so many different avenues. I found my type through a podcast. You can find it through reading. I think the first week of this series you mentioned, the Road Back to You book. It's phenomenal. A lot of folks have found their type through that. But there's a lot of different ways. But the thing to keep in mind when you're testing, there's one question that maybe you can try that might be helpful. So ask yourself, what's been most true of me most of the time for most of my life? Because there will always be different times of life or seasons where we feel more stressed out, or maybe we do this, or in this situation I might do this. But what's mostly true of you? The other thing, sometimes when you score relatively similar in a lot, could be dependent on your mood or how hard you're trying to kind of get in touch with yourself. It could be on your level of self-awareness. How well do you actually know yourself? And then some types struggle with finding their type. Sixes and nines struggle the most. Sixes because there's always it depends. On this situation, I'd be like this, and that I'd be like that. And nines because they tend to not be super in touch with who they actually are. So lots of reasons.
So sixes being
the loyalist or the loyal guardian, and nines being the peaceful mediator.
Yeah, the peacemakers. Mm-hmm. So sometimes what I've encouraged is, it might help you to have somebody that knows you well to help you to complete the test. That's not always necessarily true, though.
Yeah, I don't normally recommend that, and part of it is because no one knows what it's really like inside of you, and sometimes you don't even know what it's like inside of you. When I first found my type, I felt comforted and also a little freaked out. Anybody else have that experience when you found your type, like, ooh, that really connects with me, but also, ooh, that's a little frightening that somebody knows me that well, that intimately. And so when I found my type, I had been in therapy for 2.5 years at that point, and married for probably 3 or 4, and my husband and my therapist both thought that I was a type that I wasn't. So only I know what it's like, and I didn't even realize what it was like until I read about the type 6. So I really strongly recommend doing it yourself and trying different routes. If the test doesn't work for you, try a podcast. There's a podcast called The Liturgist. Episode 37 is the one that I use. It's really fantastic. The Road Back to You is also a great way.
Yeah,
or you can hire a coach. I'll help you.
That's what she does. I actually listened to Ian Cron's book while I was riding the motorcycle and just was digesting the whole thing as I was going. So good ways to learn. The other thing is sometimes people overthink the questions, and I kind of encourage, hey, the first thing that comes to your mind is probably the right one. The more you start grinding through and thinking through it, I think that makes it more difficult. You get lost in it pretty easily. So as a person matures, as they mature spiritually, as they mature emotionally, will their personality, or that, like, I'm a 5, I'm an investigative thinker, will that change?
Yeah, you are only one type, and you are that type for your whole life. And
You're stuck with you.
You're stuck with you. You can't run from yourself. And that's just because the Enneagram is all about our internal motivations. It's not about our behavior. It's about what motivates you, what drives you to be who you are. So that doesn't ever shift. The way that you can present that can shift. So we have a diagram of the arrows. Now, the arrows that you'll see back here are all pointing towards your number of stress, but we also, if you look the opposite way, it's pointing towards your direction of health. So this is how you grow, how you mature. As you continue to do your work, you create a healthier version of who you are.
Okay, so you said the arrow points to your number of stress. So when you're under stress, you will tend to act like
Yes.
the other
So I'm a
personality.
type 6, and when I move towards my number of stress, so basically it means in seasons of stress, I tend to look more like a 3. That's true for me. So for me, I tend to be a hard worker as a type 6, but when I'm in a stressful place, I get like obsessed with tasks, where I almost the anxiety that I feel inside is too much, and it has to come out of my body some way. So I wind up being fairly controlling and fairly dominating and very task-oriented. When I'm healthy, I look more like a type 9, and I tend to be more grounded, more at peace, more relaxed. I don't feel as wound up. I just feel more grounded.
Okay, so that's what the arrows help us to
Yep.
understand in that. And what are the wings? Let's talk about the wings. a little
So
bit.
wings are the numbers. So if you are a type 2, for example, you would have a 3 wing or a 1 wing.
Now the 2 being the,
2 being the supportive helper.
okay.
So if you're a type 4, the romantic individualist, you might have a 5 wing or a 3. If you're a 4, you'd have a 3 wing or a 5 wing. So there are the numbers right beside, and basically the point of those is just to help you get a more full understanding of who you are. So, for example, a 2 that's really loving and serving and wanting to help, if they have a strong 1 wing, then they might feel really strongly like this is the right way to help. So it just adds a more robust look at who you are.
So whatever your personality type is, you tend to lean to one side or the other,
Typically.
or you can. Okay.
Yeah, some people say, I've heard somebody say, I'm a 9 with a 9 wing, as in, I'm just full on 9. I don't really have much 8 or much 1. I'm a 6 with a 7 wing, so I see a lot of 7 tendencies come out in me if my core desire of the type 6 is met. So my desire as a 6 is for safety. If I feel safe, I can really let loose and have fun and be more engaged with that 7 wing. But if I don't, I will not be able to do that.
Okay, so it's important to understand. So your basic personality, though, stays the same.
Yeah.
Here's, you might go, well, why are we talking about this? This sounds like a bunch of psychology. Let me tell you why this is important. The more you understand who you are and what motivates you, the more you understand the healthiest expressions of you and the most unhealthy expressions of you. That's so important because those affect your relationships. Since Christ died for us, what he's done is this. He literally died on the cross to pay for our sins. In dying on the cross, what he also did was he opened up an opportunity for us to die to the things that have kept us stuck. So all those things went through a relationship with him. When you place your faith in him as your Savior and as your Lord, literally he created space for you to break free from addiction, break free from toxic patterns of relating, family dysfunction, all those things that you learn. And matter of fact, baptism last weekend, how many of you were at baptism? That was awesome, wasn't it? That was awesome. So for everyone that expresses their faith publicly through baptism, what they're doing is they're saying, I've died to the person I used to be, sins are washed away. And when you come up out of the water, what you're saying is, just as Jesus has been raised from the dead, I too have been raised to live a new life. As a matter of fact, God already says you are new. You're a new creation. And so the power God gives us is to die to the old things, die to the addictions, die to all that, and to be able to live a new life. Literally to become the most beautiful expression of what you were created to be.
Yeah.
This is so important. God doesn't want to take your personality away. God wants to bring out the best, most beautiful expression of who you are. Now, none of us by ourselves can fully express the character and nature of God. But all of us together as a community being the best that we were created to be, give a full picture to the world around us of what God's love looks like. So we need everybody to show up completely able to embrace who they are through a relationship with Christ in the best expression. So your personality is not going to change. We don't want you to. We just want the very best of all of us to come out because of God, right?
Yeah.
Okay, got that? Cool. All right. So are any types more compatible together, and are there any types that are more of a challenge for them to be together?
Sure. Yeah, so this is a super common question, and I always answer it carefully because I really believe, and other Enneagram teachers will say the same, any combo, any couple, any friend group, siblings, whatever, can all work together as long as they are self-aware and mindful of how they impact people. So at the end of the day, some types might be more difficult, or they might have to do a little more work, but they can totally work. So one of the classic examples of a difficult or a more challenging combo would be the type 8, which is called the protective challenger, and a type 4, which is called the romantic individualist. The reason is 8s can be generally come off as really aggressive and dominating, and they're very fast-paced and intense people. 4s are very emotional, sensitive people. They rely on their feelings to help them figure out who they are and how to move forward. And 8 is a very, sometimes they're gut-oriented, sometimes impulsive people. And so sometimes they have a really difficult time understanding one another, but the 8 needs the 4's intuition and the 4's ability to understand and connect emotionally with people. And the 4 needs the 8's energy to kind of say, okay, we've felt enough, like let's make a decision and move on. So there's a gift. And as you learn to be mindful of how you impact each other, you can say, oh shoot, I think I just bulldozed you. How are you feeling? Let me check in and make sure I didn't really hurt you. And the 4 can say, okay, like give me some of your energy. I need some of your passion because I'm just kind of, getting stuck here. So there's a gift in it. If you're mindful of how you show up, it can be really beautiful.
And this has been really important. So one of the goals in this series was that as we learn more and more about why people do what they do, that we have more grace towards one another, understanding that people do what they do for a reason. Yeah. And so when you get someone who's the strong, dominating kind of let's go, full speed ahead, and then you've got the romantic who's feeling deeply, what you don't want to do is just get stuck judging, like, oh, he's such a jerk. He's always pushing his way. Or, oh, she's so emotional. I cannot believe she's like always so emotional about things. That's not going to help you. So judging isn't going to help you, but understanding wiring and motivation can help you. Yeah. And so that's been the goal of this, because ultimately we all want to be more gracious people, right? We all want to be filled with grace. We want to be able to understand each other and not just lock people in these judgments that are so easy to default to, but it's really the lazy way out. Yeah. But to understand and work through things, that's really where God does some of his best work. Yeah.
I tell, when I'm working with couples especially, I'll use the phrase, get curious about each other, because we tend to see things we almost white knuckle the way that we see things, like this is the way. Doesn't everyone feel this way? Doesn't everyone see it this way? And that's just not true. And as you learn about the other types, you can not only see, oh wow, this is true for me, but also as true as this is for me, that's as true for you. I don't get it, and that's not how my brain works at all, but teach me about what that's like for you. And that's such a gracious approach. We have to start with compassion for ourselves, because sometimes there's that like, ooh, I don't want to be the type that I am, because that's the stuff that you've been trying to work against for your life. But as you learn to have compassion towards yourself, so much easier to have it towards each other too.
Yeah. And what about parenting? So, like, should kids be taking this? How does that help?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned earlier we can't type each other because we don't know what each other's inner world is. So same is true for your kids, so don't type your children. We say by the age of 12 or 13, generally, if they are fairly insightful or mature kids, they can have enough insight to answer questions that you might have to help you get clearer on what type they might be. But at the end of the day, I always say, if you can raise your kids to be emotionally aware and in touch with themselves themselves, they'll be fine. They'll teach you over time, like, hey, mom, or hey, dad, or hey, aunt, or whoever, this really hurt when you said that, or that meant so much to me, thank you. And as you learn to listen for what matters to them, and you have a curious approach for them as they develop as an individual, you'll be fine. You'll parent them better once they can reflect that to you.
Yeah, and a great way, what we did when we raised our boys is I would, when I put the kids to bed, sometimes I'd say, hey, how's your heart, buddy? How's your heart? Like, everything okay down there? Anything you're mad about? Has anybody hurt you? Or anything that I did or anything that hurt you? And so one of the things I always wanted to do is help the boys to be in tune with their own heart and be able to clear that. And the more kids are in tune with their heart, the more they're going to be able to do something like this and really access it. One of the things that was helpful for us, it was a different personality test, but same type of thing, motivation. Mm-hmm. And with our youngest son, that really helped us because our oldest son, he was a typical firstborn compliant child. We tell him what to do, he's like, okay, he wanted to please us and do it. Well, our youngest, Jonathan, he wasn't wired like that. And sometimes I'd go, what is it with him? What is it with him? And we had him do the personality test. Well, it was surprising for us because even though he was the little brother, he scored on this test as the 8, as a leader, as a strong one. He's the Marine. But back then, it was like, why isn't he just doing it? Well, we learned he has to be a part of owning the decision. He doesn't want to just be told what to do. He has to express his leadership. He has to express himself somehow. And so we began to give him choices and give him ownership in decisions. Still had to go the same way, but it was like, do you want to do it this way or you want to do it that way? You're going to do it. But how do you want to get there? And he began to own decisions. And boy, if we had not learned that about him, that would have really been frustrating for him to be parented by us. For sure. And so it was super helpful. Yeah. So with kids, it can really be helpful. What about in relationships? What breakthroughs have you seen? Any examples of how this has helped?
Yeah, so many, but one that comes to mind is I was early on when I started coaching, I was working with a type 9, and she was older. She had been married for probably 25 or 30 years at this time, and her husband was a type 8. And so she had tended, especially as a Christian, especially as a woman, especially as a mom, had tended to just be more compliant and also as a 9. That's an intense combo right there. So as a 9, she would tend to just kind of retreat back and not really push against, not really speak her opinions, and he would just kind of make all the decisions. He was the one in charge. And that's just the roles that they were comfortable in. And for the most part, it worked, other than he knew that he was bulldozing her, and she knew that she was getting bulldozed, but they didn't know how to do it differently. So part of my work with her was helping her find her voice, getting in touch with things she wasn't okay with, things that she didn't like, moments where he said something to her that did hurt her feelings, and then being able to communicate that to him. And she feared that he would resent her or that he would start disliking her, and actually he started respecting her more. It helped him feel safer because he knew he wasn't going to accidentally stomp all over her, that she had a voice now too, and he could really respect that. So it was really unifying for them and beautiful.
That's awesome. So, and some of the ones that are easiest to get along with, the peacemakers,
yes,
and the supportive helpers.
Yeah, generally the 2s and the 9s, I say, get along with most people for different reasons. So the 2s, because they tend to really want to be liked by you, and so they'll just kind of become whoever they need to be in that space so that you love them, and so they can sometimes lose sense of who they actually are in the relationship. 9s tend to merge with other people. So it's because I don't have a clear sense of who I am, I just kind of become whatever you're doing, it's fine. But then when I'm with you, whatever you're doing, it's fine. And it's not an intentional chameleon kind of behavior. It's just like, I don't really know what I think or what I want, so I'll just go with the flow. It's fine. So again, our biggest strengths are our greatest weaknesses, right, when they're not in check. And so those are 2s and 9s are the most easygoing people of the entire Enneagram. They're so just lovely humans. And they tend to lose themselves in relationships because of that. So
here's what I want you to do. Yeah. You got 9 personality types. Yeah. I want you to take 35, 45 seconds and speak to each one of those personality types. Give a quick coaching session to each one of them.
Okay, so we have them up on the screen. So if you know your type and you want to take a screenshot of that and reflect on it later, feel free. So we'll start with our ones, the type ones. They're called the moral perfectionist. So 3 things to keep in mind, type 1. So learn to identify and compassionately redirect your inner critic. Lots of us have voices in our head that kind of say like, oh, you could have done that better, you should have done that. But one's inner critic is really harsh, like very mean to them and berates them. And so it's really important that ones can say that out loud to a friend, and a friend can say, wait a second, don't talk to my friend like that. That's not true. Here's what I want for you. And so learning to identify that voice is really important. Learn to appreciate good enough over perfection. Ones love things to be done perfectly, and it often keeps them from actually completing things. So good enough is an option, ones, and learn to allow that to be true in your life. Be mindful of when it's helpful and appropriate to correct and improve, and when to just let things be. So the example I use is, does it really matter if the dishes are put in the dishwasher exactly the way that you think they need to be? Or do you really want to say, thank you for doing that? So be mindful, ones. When does it matter, and when can you just let it go?
Boy, you got a lot of chuckles.
Do we have a lot of ones in here? I know.
Yeah.
Not to call you out, or maybe the people who know ones were the ones laughing. Okay, type 2s, you're our supportive helpers. So 3 things for you. Ask directly for your needs rather than hinting at them. 2s, your superpower is to be able to sense other people's needs without them communicating them. That is your superpower, not anyone else's. So I know you think they should be able to read your mind, but they can't. So be direct with them, okay? Take the time to figure out what you need and ask people to meet those needs. When you are loving or serving, check your motives. Learn to love with no strings attached. Sometimes there's a tendency with 2s to love in order to be loved or give in order to receive, and it's not always conscious, but if somebody doesn't say thank you or someone doesn't give you a gift on your birthday, even though you gave them a gift and you're upset, you might be loving with strings attached, so be mindful of that. Learn to get in touch with your own feelings, not just others, and practice saying no. That's a big one. Type 3s are successful achievers. Slow down. Choose quality over quantity. So less is more, 3s. Do things excellently rather than doing a bunch of things kind of halfway. Redefine success by getting clear on your values and true character. So if success to you means a happy family or kids who know that you love them and care about them, then remember that when you want to continue working over, okay? Put your work down and be attentive to your family or whoever is important to you. Let others lead and champion them. Build a strong team, not just a strong you with followers. That's huge for 3s. Type 4s are romantic individualists. Wow, we have a lot of 4s. Look at all those phones. Snap, snap. Okay. Be mindful of how often you're idealizing and letting envy grow. The grass is not greener over there. You think it is, but it's not. So write that on a sticky note. Put it on a mirror for yourselves. Show up and be present in relationships. Be where your body is. 4s tend to live in the past or be thinking about what could be, but just be present and enjoy what's in front of you. And lastly, people do understand you. Let them get close to you. There's a push and pull a lot of times with 4s in relationships. They think no one gets me, and yet they want to be connected with and feel like they have a sense of belonging. So be mindful of that tendency to push and pull and just stay close, okay? Let people love you. Type 5s are investigative thinkers. Practice generosity with your resources, time, energy, money, knowledge, and emotions. 5s tend to hoard because there's a belief in them that there's never enough. And so practice being generous with those. Identify a few safe people and give them permission to know you and see the deeper parts that you like to keep hidden. 5s are really private, but letting people into those spots will be really important for you. And get physical. Awaken your body. Let your brain take a rest for a second. All right, type 6s. The nod of acknowledgement.
Yep.
All right, type 6s, you are our loyal guardians. So get into a regular yoga, meditation, or silent prayer practice. This is huge for 6s. We tend to not be super in touch with our own inner voice, and we tend to vacillate, not be able to make decisions real well. So getting still lets that inner voice rise up. Identify the positives and give them as much focus as you do your worst case scenarios. And lastly, 6s tend to flip from compliant to rebellious in relationships, and this is especially true with authority. So understand, 6s, when you notice yourself shifting from, all of a sudden I've been really cooperative and listening, and all of a sudden I'm like, I don't want to do anything you tell me to do, and now I want to rebel. Ask yourself, how is that connected to my level of safety right now? It's almost always about if you feel like it's a safe environment and if you trust the one telling you what to do. So be mindful of that. Sevens are enthusiastic optimists. Learn to sit in difficult emotions. You cannot spend your life running from yourself in the hard parts of life. They are a gift and they have something to teach you. And if you run from them, you're really running from those parts of yourself as well. Realize that your fun cup is a 32 ounce and others might be an 8 ounce. I have a friend who she's a 7, and I will say, listen, my fun cup is capped out. It's full, okay? So you can have more fun, but my fun cup is full, okay? So find another friend to have more fun with you, okay, 7s? And last one for you, practice being more still and present by scheduling in calming activities like journaling, prayer, or a slow walk with no noise. You don't always have to have an audiobook or a podcast or something going. Be still and let yourself be in touch with kind of a calm spirit. Type 8s are protective challengers, so let compassion drive your justice fighting. Vulnerability will take you farther than your strength. I know you think that that's not true, but it is. So learn to be open to that idea. Okay, others don't move as quickly or as intensely as you. If you want influence, you must learn to slow down and care for people, not bulldoze them. And then 8s, build a circle of safe people who you can let your guard down with. They want to love you if you will let them. So last service I shared, I have somebody recently that told me loving an 8 is like trying to hug a cactus. So I reminded her gently that is, inside of a cactus or inside of an aloe plant, for example. When you open it up, it's actually really ushy-gushy and has healing properties. So be mindful that 8s are really hard on the outside, but inside they're really tender and they really long for a space that's safe enough to let those parts be seen. I will also say that I never feel safer than when I'm with an 8 because I know they will fight for and protect me, and that is a gift. So thank you, 8s. 8s are generally really misunderstood, and I really love them. Okay, type 9s are peaceful mediators. So get in touch with your anger. It's how you learn who you truly are. 9s, you think you're not angry, but you are. Okay, so get in touch with your anger. You like to think that you have no anger. I'm not really an angry person. I don't know. I just feel calm all the time. You do have anger. You're just asleep to it. So practice asking yourself, what did I not like about today? What am I not okay with? Was I not okay with the way that person spoke to me or that event that played out that way? Getting in touch with what you don't like actually helps you get clear on what you do like and helps you understand who you are. Share your opinions with people close to you. Your thoughts are valuable and important. And reach out to others in an active way rather than passively taking the back seat in life, vegging out on TV, or being a sloth. Others do want to know you, so show up. Let yourself be seen.
Guys, let's give it up for Christy. Thank you so much,
Thank you
Christy.
for having me.
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us today. And if our ministry has been a source of encouragement for you, let me encourage you to do 2 things. Number 1, share it with a friend who needs hope. That would make a big difference in their life. Secondly, share it with us. We would love to hear your story. You can send us an email at amen@bridgechurchfl.com. And finally, if you'd like to partner with us financially as we bring hope both locally and around the world, you can do that directly through our website, bridgechurchfl.com/give. And thank you for letting us be a part of your spiritual journey.